All right, let's get right into it. Have you ever had one of those days, or maybe even weeks, where you feel like you're just on autopilot? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the lyrics of We Are the Habit. We're going to use it to decode those invisible scripts that are running our lives. And you know the really cool part? We'll figure out how we can actually start rewriting them.
So let's just kick things off with a big question, one that really gets to the core of all this. I want you to think about your day so far. For real, how many of the things you did were actual conscious choices? And how many of them, well, they just sort of happened, right? That is where our whole journey into the crazy power of habit really starts.
You know, the song's opening lines just nail this idea right away. Get this, habits aren't just things we do. The lyric calls them a disguise. Think about that. They're this invisible force field almost that makes it incredibly hard to even see the why behind our own actions.
Okay, so a disguise, what does that actually mean? Let's dig in a little deeper and see how these patterns work under the hood, kind of like an invisible architect building the house of our daily lives.
I mean, we all know the dictionary definition, right? A habit is just a regular thing you do, and it's tough to stop. But what's so cool about these lyrics is they're pushing us to go way beyond that. They're hinting that there's something much, much bigger going on here.
And boom, this next line shows us just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Our habits, our patterns, they're not just stuff we do. They're literally woven into our identity, into our attachment to life itself. It's like they're part of our operating system as human beings, for better or for worse.
All right, so for all these creatures of habit, what's the result? What does that actually create in our day-to-day? Well, the song has a perfect name for it, our autopilot self. You know exactly what that is. It's the version of you that just takes over the controls when your conscious mind checks out for a second.
And this is a huge piece of the puzzle. It turns out our habits aren't random at all. The lyrics connect them straight to our fixed beliefs, and together they create this dominant self that we just play out on repeat every single day. A lot of the time, we don't even have a clue it's happening.
So really, it's like we're living in two different modes all the time. You've got your conscious self, right? The one that's aware, present, making deliberate moves. But then there's the autopilot self. That's the one running on those fixed beliefs, just playing a script on repeat, totally in disguise.
Okay, so our habits build this dominant self. So what? Why does it even matter outside of our own little personal routines? Well, as the song points out, the impact is way, way bigger than you'd think. It's actually massive. And this next part is kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. It's not just our internal world that gets shaped by these habits. All of our little, tiny, repeated actions and conversations, they are the literal bricks and mortar that build our world today.
You can see it right here in this creation chain. It's a pretty simple cause and effect. It starts with those deep ingrained habits inside us that fuels what we say and what we do. And then, when you multiply that by millions or even billions of people, bam, that's how you get the world we all live in.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds a little bleak, right? Like we're just robots programmed by our past. But hold on, because this is where the whole story flips. This is where it gets really, really hopeful. And here is the absolute key to everything we're talking about. That formula, it's not set in stone. It's not permanent. Our habits might be the default setting, but they are not our destiny, not by a long shot.
This line right here, this is the core of the whole thing. Our habits are the formula that's dominant, for sure. But here's the kicker. We can change it in a heartbeat. That's incredible. It means change doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out battle. It can happen in an instant, in a single moment of clarity.
So the big question is, how do we get to that heartbeat moment? How do we actually grab that opportunity to change our formula? Well, it all boils down to one essential first step.
Hey, remember how we started? The song says habits are hard for us to recognize. That's their superpower, right? The disguise. So the very first step, the simple act of just seeing the pattern for what it is, that's what breaks the spell. That's what hands the controls back to you.
So, here it is, the path to change, laid out right from the lyrics. It's a simple roadmap. First, you recognize the pattern that's been on repeat. Step 2, you acknowledge that dominant self it created. Then, you interrupt the autopilot. You just hit pause. And right there, in that little space you've created, you get to choose something different.
And that brings us to the final question, and it's a really powerful one to take with you. Now that you know this formula isn't permanent, that you can change it in a heartbeat, well, all the power is back in your hands. The very first move is just to look. So what dominant self,
What little hidden habit are you going to choose to finally see today?